is that you have to fix the pattern. It's worth me mentioning, I'm going to talk about diet shortly because it can play a role, but no diet is going to totally fix this. It can be exaggerated, as I mentioned earlier, in a heavy dieting or weight loss phase. Binge eating can come out even more in a weight loss phase. But even a good diet, even a healthy, clean diet, it's not going to necessarily, anyway, completely fix the underlying behavior. And that's the problem. So you can still be on a whole foods plant-based diet, and I speak to people, I would actually say it's daily, I was about to say near daily, but it's probably several times a day, who have this very problem, in that they still suffer from binge eating. Their diet is relatively clean, they're doing a bit of exercise, they're doing lots of things in terms of their health, wellness, fitness, nutrition, and so on, quote unquote, right, but they're still suffering from binge eating. Why? Why is that? Well, in many cases, a couple of reasons, but it tends to be, in my experience talking to these folks, that the pattern of behavior is still there, and they just carry it from one diet to another. So it doesn't matter how much you clean things up on paper in the vast majority of your diet, that massive inconsistency every weekend or every couple of days that comes with binge eating, that is not massively related to what you're doing on those good days. It's really not, because the pattern of behavior is still there. As I say, a lot of people, they just take it from one diet to another. So they have a terrible, excuse my language, but crappy is probably the best word that springs to mind, standard American diet. Maybe they go whole foods, plant-based. Maybe they make that vegan switch even. And then in a dietary sense, they maybe really clean up their diet, of course, getting rid of the animal products, maybe getting some junk food out of their diet. But the binging is still there. Because really the diet, they are seeing it really as a mask to those problems. And it might help, there might be some overlap, and I'm going to talk about how diet can help you with binge eating, because it absolutely can. But the problem is, you don't fix or address the underlying behavior. Maybe the diet has an indirect effect on your behavior, and that helps, but the diet itself doesn't tend to do anything magical if you still have this terrible pattern of behavior brewing beneath the surface, let's say. It's only a matter of time before that's going to manifest, especially with something like binge eating. Having said all of that, the caveat is that there is a certain diet that I do really believe can help with this, and shock horror, it's the diet that I follow, it's the diet that I propose. High volume foods. Okay, so you can lose weight without the hunger, without the feelings of anger and malnourishment. And these, let's also remember, these are very healing foods. The fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, and so on, the antioxidants, the phytochemicals. These are healing foods that don't give us the roller coaster of highs and lows, the dopamine spikes, the dopamine drop-offs, and all those chemicals and additives and whatnot that junk food provides. Okay, it's not so much of a roller coaster. These are healing foods, generally speaking. And so to be able to eat these low calorie density, high volume, fiber rich, water rich foods, it does allow you to eat generous portions in many cases and still lose weight. Does that mean you can eat as much as you want? Does that mean that that's automatically going to stop binge eating? No, of course not. But you can imagine the benefit for many people. Now, again, this is really to do with I mentioned two main causes of binge eating earlier on. One, dieting, two, psychological. And so we're just talking about this from a dieting frame of mind here. There isn't much overlap into the psychological in terms of what I'm talking about here, because if you have the feeling that you want to binge eat, that you're going to binge eat, doesn't matter what diet you follow day in, day out, it ain't going to stop you in the moment. But from a dieting perspective, if you're in a weight loss phase and it really enhances these feelings, the desire to binge, it can really help to make sure that you're having lots of high volume foods, lots of fruits, veggies, whole grains. I'm preaching to the choir here. My audience is aligned with me on this. There might be one or two people watching this right now and may watch the playback of this that aren't this way inclined in terms of the nutrition, aren't aligned with me yet on this. So I'm going to speak to those of you now. Look, the whole grains, the fruits, the veggies and whatnot, what they can allow you to do is eat well and still lose weight at the same time. It's not a guarantee. You are still at risk of overeating. As I say, you can still binge eat, you can still overeat here, you can still overconsume on a calorie perspective, but it's harder to do so with this approach to nutrition because of the calories per pound in the likes of fruits, veggies, whole grains, and so on. There are exceptions like nuts and seeds. There are more fat-rich plant foods that come with more calories. But generally speaking, what you can do with this diet is pretty incredible in terms of how you can really hit the spot and still lose at the same time. So it's not a guarantee, but I do think there is overlap here. I do think this can help maybe soften the blow, soften the tendency to binge eat if you're having high volumes of fruits, veggies, whole grains, legumes like beans, peas and lentils in your diet. I think that absolutely can really help. Tubers like white potatoes and sweet potatoes. I mean, white potatoes, they're the way they are rated on the satiety index, which in a sense is a scale, not in a sense, it absolutely is a scale for measuring fullness. Must apologise, folks, so I'm really messing up my words today. Scale for measuring the fullness of certain foods. You know, boiled white potatoes, number 1 on that list. So absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing in terms of satiation. So white potatoes, great high volume food, very few calories. You can eat these things and feel truly full and satisfied. Will that take away you know, this association that you might have with weight loss, whereby it needs to be something that deprives you, that heavily restricts you, that means you have to eat tiny portions? Yeah, this can really go some way to solving the issue. Again, there's a huge psychological component to this. Doesn't matter if you're physically full, it doesn't matter if you have that negative feeling, that negative emotion, if you've embedded this pattern of binge eating over years and years and maybe decades. Doesn't matter how full you feel in the moment, doesn't matter that you filled yourself with lots of whole plant foods that day, you're still going to binge unless you work on fixing that behavior. But as I say, I do think there is some overlap here. I think the tendency, the feeling, the desire maybe to binge can be softened when you eat well, if you're in a weight loss phase, this is.